Let's discuss one of my favorite projects, World Mobile, and their incredible mission. Ready? Let's go. Let's be really clear up front. This is going to be a discussion about the technology and innovative architecture and mission of this project. It's not going to be a discussion about anybody investing in anything. This is very similar to us having a discussion about the latest generation Acura NSX. We can have a discussion about that car and the technology underpinning that car without it being a discussion related to whether or not you should invest in Honda. So the discussion we're about to have is about the car, not any investment or other financial decision by anybody. First of all, can we talk about this? If you can look at this imagery right here and not want to get behind this mission, you either have no heart or you are an agent of the CCP who only wants the Chinese government to control all the infrastructure in sub-Saharan Africa. This is really easy to get behind. Nearly 4 billion people are unconnected worldwide. I've heard them say that this is 1 out of every 2 people in the world. I think it's really easy to understand that wherever the internet goes, it's like the greatest, by far, the greatest library in the history of mankind, the greatest collection of knowledge in the history of mankind is suddenly opened up to people who've never had access to it, and prosperity seems to follow. The internet and access to the internet, access to the rest of the world creates prosperity. If you can't get behind that mission, regardless of anything else, if you can't get behind the mission of providing access, connectivity to the half the globe that doesn't have it, then I don't know what to say. We've talked about World Mobile on this channel many times, but I think a lot of people are still probably in this place where they see the videos of, towers being erected in Tanzanian villages to create a mesh network and provide access to people who don't have access, and they're still asking the question, but what does this have to do with crypto? How I get that this somehow is going to involve a blockchain, some utilization of blockchain technology and crypto, but I don't exactly understand how this is going to work. I think a lot of people are in the same position. We're going to answer that question today, and luckily it's going to be easy to answer because World Mobile has written some really great papers. They've done some really legit work. A lot of different crypto projects, even in the Cardano space, have white papers. And in a lot of cases, you're going to say white paper and you're going to be making the air quotes with your fingers. But look at the reference section to this paper. They're citing real work here. They've actually put a bunch of research and work into this paper. They didn't just write up, a bunch of random goals and an ambiguous roadmap and say, hey, we're going to build the following, just let us get our hands on a ton of money and we're going to build out a bunch of cool stuff, trust us. They put in a bunch of work. They really understand the industry they're in, and they have a really valid and legit use case for crypto. This isn't just a deal where they're like, hey, we're in telecom and we like crypto, so we're going to figure out some way to hack those two things together. They've got a really legit, and from my perspective, as I read this white paper, seems like a very valid use case for crypto. This isn't some nonsense where they just hack those two concepts together. They've got some really sophisticated use of the technology of our space, blockchains and crypto, inside of this telecom project. So let's jump right into it. The first thing we have to understand is there are 3 different types of nodes in the World Mobile ecosystem. We've got Earth nodes, Air nodes, and Ether nodes. So Ether, not having to do with Ethereum, this is AETHER. And if you look up the history of that term, oversimplified, it was kind of used to represent what was sort of beyond the skies historically, right? There was this notion, this theory of ether, and the stuff out in space, that whole realm, there was ether. So this is not related to Ethereum. This is ether with an AETHER. So we've got Earth nodes, air nodes, and ether nodes. Ether nodes are going to be the system's connection to the legacy systems. Air nodes are the access points for users, the things you see them in the videos putting up in Tanzanian villages. You can think of Earth nodes as the brains of the system, and they're doing a bunch of blockchain and telecom and other things that we're going to talk about in just a second. Before we get into the details of the Earth node, take a peek at this overarching diagram, and I think you'll get some insights into what's going on in this ecosystem. So you've obviously got telecom users there in that red capsule, and eventually they might be doing a variety of different things. World Mobile describes their services as their ecosystem really as RealFi, like real finance, right? Real people doing real things. And it might be any one of these real things. They might be doing communication stuff. It's telecom after all. They might be doing health stuff. They might be doing network stuff, education, financial. They might be doing any of these things through the ecosystem. The fees for these things will be paid in the ecosystem token, which will go to the node operators. Remember, we said we had 3 different types of node operators. They'll process these transactions for the user. And there will also be stakers involved up at the top here. But once you understand that that's how this whole ecosystem is going to work, users are getting real life things done by the node operators processing those transactions, and the node operators are getting paid in a crypto. You kind of understand the overarching theme in this ecosystem. Getting to specifics, the Earth nodes are going to contain a number of different modules: the Internode API, the digital identity module, a telecom module, and a blockchain module. The Internode API is going to be sort of a bridge between the other 3 modules: the identity module, telecom module, and blockchain module. And it'll also be sort of the communication between those, between all the nodes and various subsystems within the ecosystem. You can see in this list over here, the Internode API has various responsibilities, including processing user registration and certain financial things like balance checking and making payments. The digital identity module is going to do exactly what you think: things like identity registration, credential management, and authentication. The blockchain module, equally unsurprising, is going to do things like manage the financial ledger, reward mechanisms, and take care of storage of metadata and user data on the public blockchain and also in private data vaults. It looks like the telecom module is going to take care of all the things you've probably been waiting to hear about, the meat of telecom operations, things like call signaling, media routing, message routing, all these things we would associate with a telecom. You noticed in that previous overarching diagram that there were token holders and delegation going on, and of course, they're not delegating for nothing. So token holders would be delegating to these Earth nodes, and there'd be 2 sources of rewards to these Earth nodes. You would have rewards for producing blocks and committing them to the blockchain, and rewards for provision of services to users. Things like routing of voice or SMS. This is probably going to seem pretty familiar to users of proof of stake blockchain networks, because in the normal context, you would have rewards for validating blocks that correspond to the natural inflation in the base layer currency, and also to transaction fees collected for the transactions included in that block. Of course, your next question is, how do we decide who gets to produce those blocks and commit them to the blockchain and collect the rewards? And World Mobile addresses this under node selection. So node selection for blockchain ops and telecom ops are slightly different. Remember, we said there are rewards for producing and committing blocks, and there are also rewards for provision of service to users. So those correspond to the blockchain ops and telecom ops here. The node selection for blockchain ops will be similar to Ouroboros. No surprise, World Mobile, of course, has very close connection to Cardano and IOHK. So, of course, they see the genius in Ouroboros and have adopted that for their node selection in terms of blockchain ops. Telecom ops are slightly different. So you have a couple different types of telecom ops addressed here. You have communication as a service and network as a service. In terms of communication as a service, node selection for that branch of telecom ops is determined by intelligent routing algorithms. And this is a little bit more of a telecom specific thing, but it makes sense. Of course, if the node is providing communication as a service, then we have to have some telecom kind of centric routing, and that will help determine the node selection for communication as a service ops by that Earth node. The network as a service arm of this will have to do with proximity to the air node that's providing the access to the user, and the amount of latency. Obviously, lower latency is going to mean you're more likely to get selected as the Earth node that is doing that network as a service. Of course, Airnode and Ethernode operators will also be incentivized. Airnode operators will be rewarded in local currency based on several factors, including things like volume of traffic and volume of users. Ethernode operators will also be paid in local currency based on traffic processed. Right now, some of you are probably saying, haha, I've already found the gaping hole in all this. I already know where the Achilles heel is. You're probably thinking, hey, I saw that overarching diagram and it looked to me like the users are paying for the processing of all these transactions in the token of the ecosystem. But how are people in sub-Saharan Africa going to get their hands on this token? Don't we have a giant problem there? No, we do not. And this is one of the coolest things about this ecosystem and described in this white paper. So users, and I'm just reading this paragraph right here, users will be able to purchase top-ups for the service using the same existing method and infrastructure that they are accustomed to with local currency, such as prepaid vouchers and e-top-ups through local stores. This facilitates the distribution and onboarding of customers to the service. So this is great. According to this, the users of the system, people trying to use the mesh network for all these various connectivity things, won't really have to do anything different. It sounds like they'll be able to top up their accounts in the same ways they have in the past. And who knows, maybe they won't even know they are paying with the ecosystem's token. I mean, hasn't this always been one of the dreams of crypto, that you create a real world use? In this case, RealFi, we've been using this label RealFi. You're creating a real world use, and the user is using crypto and they don't even know it. This has always been the dream. Back at this diagram, we can say that was a quick tour of just some of the innovation going on in this ecosystem. To me, it really represents an illustration of how much more is out there beyond just DeFi. Sometimes we get caught up thinking about DeFi as the only use cases because they're some of the first ones that are going to come online. But there's so much more out there that goes beyond just a bunch of crypto people swapping tokens. There are real use cases that will affect real human beings outside of crypto. And we're going to cover a lot more on World Mobile down the road, but I didn't think it was a good idea to wait any longer before we tried to make sure everybody understood just how much was going on inside this ecosystem. Talk to you tomorrow.